I am honored to be here. I mean, I'm coming after quite a big gap, but it's a pleasure to interact with strategists and defense analysts. I think the audience composed mainly of that. There are very few economists, though we are very eminent. There are some economists, but very few. So I hope I won't be out of sync with my thinking. Professor Mooney is right in saying that strategic and political factors are overwhelming in the region, and that underlies everything. But if you really filter down to the bottom of that pyramid, the basic structure is socio-economic. I think that has to be kept in mind. And otherwise you won't explain the brisk trade between China and Japan, Taiwan and China. These factors are also there. But what I'm going to mention here, present here, is that this is my why it's not coming there. So this is basically the plan of my presentation. The four items are there, and I would to dwell on some of these issues. Now it's very difficult to read there, so I will just summarize that over the past few years, decade or so, India has been trying to link up with its neighbors through various economic channels and means. Through the bilateral process, which is free trade agreements, which has a historical background, far preceding the present urge and crave for bilateralism. India had it with Nepal and Bhutan since the early time of independence, and now with Pakistan, India is trying to normalize. And as you know, that in case of Pakistan, the normalization process is on, but yet not to take off, not quite taken off. The end of the process is still awaited. So I would like to look into some of this, not go into too much of the history of it, as there is not much time for that. Interested persons can read these aspects. The composite dialogue with Pakistan, and how we have come to a stage where the political factors which Professor Mooney mentioned have now come as a constraint at the moment. But I believe it will be taken care of, and the way forward would be there. After all, Pakistan cannot be an outlier in the international framework where MFN is given by all WTO members to each other, and Pakistan cannot dream one country in the world which does not give it to India. It will have to fall in line, though it is taking time. Now, these are the main issues. Trade imbalance is one of them. So let me look at the trade imbalance issue. True, to understand that, you have to see the trade imbalance of these countries with India vis-a-vis the rest of the world. You cannot see only their trade balance with India. So that chart shows the trade overall trade, but the trade imbalance factor I'll show you in the next chart. The trade deficit has been increasing, no doubt they are correct in saying that, but the trade deficit of the South Asian countries with the world has been increasing faster. As a result, the share of India in the South Asian countries' global deficit has been going down, as you can see in that graph. That green line shows the ratio that falls. So let us keep that in mind, that yes, it is increasing, but in relation to the world, it is declining. But in order to understand this better, we should have to bring in the China factor. And if you bring in the China factor, the trade with China is increasing much more faster for Pakistan. And this is the trade figures that I'm showing you. But if you see the trade imbalance, then you will notice that the trade imbalance with Pakistan is 4 times greater than that of India in 2012. That's top line, second top line. And the bottom line is the trade deficit with the world. So this factor I wanted to bring in. Now, it's not the trade itself, but what you are exporting, importing, that is important. That has to be kept in mind when you consider trade imbalance. And that is, Pakistan imports mainly capital and intermediate goods from China, whereas India, in a marked contrast, imports, Pakistan in a marked contrast imports mainly intermediate goods and raw materials from India. The share of consumer goods and capital goods is much less compared to China. And this has partly to do with the positive list approach that Pakistan follows with India, that restricts trade in imports of consumer goods, intermediate goods. So the pattern comes out accordingly. And this is just a same 2 slides on a comparative basis. So the second perception is India has relatively high tariff and barriers and uses specific duties on imports. Let us come to this. The data that I could look into shows that compared to South Asia as a whole, the rest of South Asia, India's tariff rates are slightly higher, but not remarkably higher, the MFN rates, compared to the other countries. In fact, some countries have higher than India. Here even I see Pakistan's being higher. Of course, I have to look into different sources. I've seen one source only. But the difference is not that much as it's been made out to be. As far as specific duties are concerned, India has done away with it. But other South Asian countries still have specific duties. These things have to be kept in mind. Specific duties are those which are applied on volume. They are contended as being highly more restrictive than ad valorem duties. I'll not go into the details of it, but we can discuss it. Now let us look at the preferential rates that India has with respect to South Asian countries. The preferential rates, both simple and average, are much lower for the rest of South Asia, only 2 to 3% compared to 15% MFN rates. So there are 0 rates for Bhutan and Nepal. There are some anomalies in the data. I'll check up. With Pakistan, the preferential rates are not there because we have not got into any bilateral agreement with Pakistan. Obviously, preferential rates are higher. Perception 3, India imposes a variety of opaque and complex non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers are those barriers which have costs other than tariffs, which raise the cost of trade. And there is a wide and deep perception among South Asian countries, particularly Pakistan, that India imposes quite a lot of them. I will not go into the details of it, but I will focus on Indo-Pak recent dialogue on this issue. Otherwise, each country has its own perceptions, which is not possible to cover. What are the perceptions? The FICCI organized a very special, session on this before, just prior to the 6th round of trade talks, to familiarize the Pakistani exporters about the barriers that they are facing. These were cited by them. They were asked to mention what barriers you are facing. Please list them. And these barriers that you can see were listed, like compulsory certification, opacity of sanitary barriers. I will not mention because you can just read on the screen. But I will go into what the reality is on these issues. Regarding textile consumer protection, it has been pointed out that testing of azo dyes are available in Delhi and Mumbai, and a certificate by an accredited certification bodies labs of Pakistan National Accreditation Council is acceptable by India, and also labs which are WTO recognized in Pakistan are acceptable by India. Now again, I am constrained by time, so I will not go into all that. What the basic thing I want to bring out is that in Pakistan, the Consumer Protection Act, which was enacted only in 2005 for Punjab, has not yet been enacted in any other states, and there is no national body which sets the or coordinates these standards in Pakistan. On SPS RICS, there is yet absence of legal framework for quality control system in its domestic and global markets. A national level authority to deal with harmonized food safety and system is not yet available in Pakistan. But if the Pakistanis say that you impose higher standards than we, then it is the onus is on them to improve their standards and not ask India to upgrade India's standards. The same will happen if India asks Britain or US, what will they say? They will say, you upgrade your standards. So the ignorance is there is lack of adequate information, the knowledge about SPS is available in Pakistan, and efforts are being made to see that this information gap is cleared. There will be, of course, case-to-case cases where there will be discrimination. You can't avoid in trade happening that, but those cases should be brought out immediately and rectified, whether it is from Indian side or from Pakistan side. You can't take one case and say, look, this is what India is doing. You have to see the overall structure. Perception 4. Agriculture is heavily subsidized in Pakistan. Between India, in India. And this will affect the livelihood of Pakistani farmers. It will destroy them, if agricultural trade is opened up. I look into this issue. This is a very big issue. There is an influential farmers lobby in Pakistan which states this, and I have mentioned the name of those lobbies, that they say that the government did not do adequate homework. They opened up, and we are caught in a mess. It appears that there is a more mixed picture on this, because there are also farmers who welcome this, getting cheap food grains and from India. So there are always mixed picture, the perceptions are not homogeneous, they differ. So this has been brought out by several studies also. A study by ITC on technical assistance to Pakistan. How much time do I have? Now, if there is only 1 minute left, I'll come to the conclusions. No, but you will be missing a very interesting diagrams, but I don't know. You will be missing quite a lot. Doesn't matter. This 1 or 2 I will show you. This is with respect to organic chemicals. This is in the negative list of Pakistan. Pakistan is afraid that India will swamp them, if this is put on the positive list. I'm giving just 1 or 2 examples. Now what Pakistan has done, it has not only given us this product in the negative list, it is giving zero duty to China. So level playing ground is not there, and China will definitely, they are going neck to neck, but already China overtaking India, if you see the figures in detail. And then there is this paper and paperboard, there is pharmaceuticals, there are steel products, electrical machinery and equipment is another product. I mentioned the number of products that are involved. Here also, and particularly in vehicles, you will notice that, let us come to nuclear reactors and boilers. Here also again, 268 products in which zero duty to China, and 197 products are in the negative list of India. So what's happening? India will lose the first mover advantage, and China will move into various sectors. Now, concluding observations. Or I'll go to way forward. The two most prominent NTBs applied by Pakistan are not giving India the MFN possibility, and the second one, not allowing all products to be moved through the Wagah border. Because these are the two main NTBs Pakistan imposes on India. And it has been shown through various slides that I have mentioned that their fear psychosis is unwarranted, because they are importing from the world quite a lot of those products which India could supply more cheaply. So if if they liberalize for India or given India MFN, then it will only substitute some products coming from third countries, or maybe some coming from China, and give India fair level ground to compete. And the consumers will benefit, the intermediary usages will benefit, and generally people will benefit. And therefore, India must bring to Pakistan to notice that you are not only staying in the way, but you are discriminating against our neighbor China. This is unfair, unwarranted. These arguments, I am afraid, require an